The world's wildlife is disappearing fast.
Leading conservation group, the WWF, recently announced its shock findings that average animal populations have plummeted by an incredible 3/4 in the last 50 years.
And if you think this is someone else's problem, think again, because the UK's wildlife is in serious trouble too, with entire species at risk of extinction. In this special programme, we investigate the state of nature in the UK.
The amount of wildlife on the river has been radically reduced.
We learn about species that are struggling to survive.
It's absolutely deadly to red squirrels.
And we meet those fighting to protect our natural world.
Dolphin, over there. Before it's too late.
Restore nature now! Restore nature now!
This summer, 60,000 people gathered in central London to protest about the alarming loss of nature in the UK. It was one of the largest ever marches of its kind, and leading it were wildlife presenters Chris Packham and Meg McCubbin.
Louder! Restore nature now!
What we've seen, there's a collapse in what we call our biodiversity. That's the number of different species living in a space at a time. It's one of the ways that we measure the richness of life around us. And that has been falling away in the UK. In fact, we're one of the most nature-depleted collection of nations anywhere in the world.
1 in 6 species in the UK are at risk of extinction. We could lose them forever. That is a real reality. That is potentially likely unless we stand up and do something now. And I think what I say to people is that the biggest tool that we have is our voice. And when we stand up for nature, when we talk about nature, when we ask our government to do better, to do more for it, then we're going to be in a better position in the long run.
There were lots of young people here too, wanting to make their voices heard.
I went to show people that the environment is important and people should be acting.
I think it's important for kids to be here to get their own opinion on how to save the environment.
We are going to grow up into the next generation, and it's not fair if we can't live happily and safely, because we need to solve this climate crisis.
The organisers of the march hope that such a huge turnout will send a strong message to the government that they have to do more to protect the UK's wildlife.
And it needs protecting. A group of leading UK conservation organisations called the State of Nature Partnership have found that, on average, wildlife in the UK has fallen by around a fifth since 1970, with 1 in 6 species threatened with extinction.
They believe there are several main factors causing the overall decline in UK biodiversity. These include climate change, intensive farming, overfishing in our seas, and invasive species. And they also highlighted the problem of pollution, which is never far from the news. To find out more about this and how it can affect the life in our rivers and waterways, I met up with wildlife presenter Steve Backshall. Steve lives by the River Thames in the south of England, and he's been monitoring the river water here for several years. This is such an incredible view. It must be amazing, having this on your back garden. You must see so many amazing animals and things out here as well.
We do, and living here means that you get to know not just the kinds of animals, but individuals. So we have otters that come up onto the deck almost every night. So you probably see there's that droppings over there. Yeah. That's otter spraint, so it's full of fish bones and things. And at the moment we have a pair of otters that are coming up here, which is super exciting because it means they're probably breeding.
So what kind of biodiversity do we find in our rivers?
So it all starts with invertebrate life. If you were here in May, June, July, what you would see would be just clouds of insects. And there would be mayflies, stoneflies, alderflies, caddisflies. And those are the base of the food chain for everything else. If the water's not in good condition, the bugs all die. Yeah. And so everything else has nothing to feed on.
So can you just tell me exactly what threats our rivers are facing today?
Pollution is the big one, and that comes from 2 main sources. One of those is from agriculture, so it's the pesticides and the fertilizers that are running off from agriculture, and then sewage. Sewage is a massive one. For us, we have a sewage plant 500 meters upstream from here, and after heavy rains, they will discharge for 10 hours, 20 hours, raw human effluent into the river.
And this is a surprisingly common issue. In the last year, there were over 500,000 recorded incidents where sewage flowed into rivers and lakes in England and Wales. It poured in for a total of over 4.5 million hours.
After one of those outages, if you took a cup of this water and drank it, you would end up in hospital. It's incredibly damaging to human health, but also to animal health too. I wouldn't want my dog to be drinking from the river right now. This year, when we've had a lot of sewage outages, the amount of wildlife on the river has been radically reduced. And it's not surprising because they are swimming around all day long in sewage.
That's really shocking, isn't it? I didn't realise it was such a big problem.
I know, no wonder our biodiversity is under threat with that going on. But it's not just pollution that's an issue. The latest State of Nature report also found that over the last 50 years, the number of pollinating insects, like moths, bees and butterflies, has also fallen.
The charity Butterfly Conservation recently declared a butterfly emergency. I want to chat to a young expert and an old friend of FYI to find out what's causing the problem. Becca from Warwickshire is passionate about protecting butterflies. Hello, Rebecca. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Nice to
too.
meet you. Wow. So, what is this place?
Well, this is my butterfly farm. My mum and dad helped me build it. Over here, we've got a bunch of chrysalis in here. And also this here is a picture of Pat the butterfly, which was the first butterfly I've ever reared.
Why do you think butterflies are important to protect?
Well, I love butterflies, but they're also a part of our ecosystem and they pollinate plants too.
This summer, Becca, along with over 85,000 other people, took part in a nationwide survey called the Big Butterfly Count. It found that butterfly numbers are down by almost half compared with last year.
This year it's been really wet and windy and there's been lots of weather changes. Butterflies are a key indicator for climate change. So if their numbers are low, that means climate change is unfortunately getting worse. But there's also other things going on that are affecting butterflies, like building going on their habitats, basically taking away their homes. And also butterfly-killing chemicals called pesticides.
Pesticides control insects that damage crops, and the charity Butterfly Conservation is calling on the government to ban a specific type that's known to be harmful to butterfly and bee populations. Becca believes that one way we can support butterfly populations is by taking care of wildflower meadows like this one near where she lives. We're meeting conservationist Mike to help plant flowers to increase the source of food for the butterflies.
Hi, Mike.
So, what are we up to right now, guys?
Oh, actually, there's some devil's bit scabious. What we're doing is collecting this seed today. We're making more of these great nectar sources for butterflies.
As well as planting seeds, Becca also helps to rescue butterfly eggs and caterpillars that would otherwise not survive. And what can I and others watching this do to help conserve butterflies?
Well, you can find out what butterflies are in your local area and then plant their food plants and create a pollinator-friendly area with flowers and things like that. But then if you don't have a garden, you can create a window box, which also helps.
Several butterfly species here have actually seen their numbers increase in the last year, and Becca's work is seen as a big part of that recovery.
Nice work, Becca. Now, earlier we mentioned that the State of Nature report highlights how invasive species are one of the key factors in causing our biodiversity loss. This occurs when species are introduced from another country or area and upset nature's balance. I've been learning how this has had a devastating impact on one UK mammal. There used to be around 3.5 million red squirrels in the UK, but they're now one of our most endangered animals, and they've been pushed to the brink by grey squirrels, which were introduced to the UK by humans in the 1870s. I've come to the Loch of the Lowes Nature Reserve north of Edinburgh, where a unique project is managing to stop the decline. Katie from the charity Saving Scotland's Red Squirrels can explain more.
The reason that grey squirrels are so impactful is because they outcompete red squirrels for food and for habitat, which means that for red squirrels, it becomes really difficult for them to survive in a place where there are grey squirrels as well. Also, the other issue is that grey squirrels carry a virus. It's called squirrelpox virus, and they're not affected and they can live with it and it's totally fine, but it's absolutely deadly to red squirrels.
So how do you protect the reds from the greys then?
Well, at the moment, the only effective way is to control the grey squirrels, and that means taking them out of the environment and humanely killing them.
A lot of our viewers might find it hard to kind of understand and consider how that could be all right. You know, we're trying to protect the natural world, but we're killing, you know, squirrels. How does that work?
We don't take the decision lightly at all. It's all part of the issue of invasive species. And grey squirrels are part of that issue. So we know that what we're doing is for the betterment of biodiversity and native species.
The team aim to keep the grey squirrels out of this area as much as possible. And to monitor if this is working, rangers like Jen use a simple but clever way to keep track of the numbers.
So we have these feeder boxes and they have a sticky hair trap inside. So when the squirrel comes to the box, it lifts the lid up here and as it's feeding, it will leave a little bit of hair on this sticky hair and we can take that away and see whether it's red hair, grey hair or pine marten hair.
The hairs are really tiny, so they study them under a microscope to work out who they belong to.
We can see lots of red hair.
So that's what we want to see. We want to see the red hair.
That is definitely what we want to see.
If we did see grey squirrel hair, what would you do next?
We'd put a camera trap out, see if we can get the grey on camera. If we have got a regular grey, we would come and put a trap run out.
It just goes to show, sometimes conservation isn't simple. But one thing is certain, without the work that the team are doing, red squirrels would disappear from even more of the UK.
And it's not just animals under threat. We take it for granted that Britain is covered in woodland and forest. But the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew in London, a world leader in plant science, recently warned that over half of their tree species could disappear by 2090. Tom is part of the team here and can tell me more. So what is causing this?
Even since 1980, springs and summers here are getting drier. We only have to think back to 2022 when we had the big drought and we lost more than 400 trees, which is a lot.
That's almost 4% of trees in Kew alone, and they put the devastating loss down to climate change. To help them plant trees now that will have the best chance of thriving in the future, the team are using cutting-edge science in their labs.
So what this does is you take a little circle of leaf, like we've got there, pop it in the machine, and this machine tries to take all of the water out of it. And it measures how long it takes for the machine to do that. And the longer the bit of leaf can resist that, the theory is, the more drought resistant it is.
Many trees that grow in Britain also grow in warmer countries too. The team think that taking the seeds of species from other countries and planting them here in the UK could ensure trees thrive in the future. Among the saplings being tested here is a certain type of beech tree.
We looked at areas of the world that might be similar to London in 2090. It turns out that one of those regions, which was in eastern Romania, is where this little plant grew. So this is a hybrid beech from the eastern Romanian steppe. That's pretty much on the edge of where it's possible to grow trees because of the low rainfall. So we'll plant this out and we'll monitor it and we'll see if the theory is true. We'll see if it is better.
The hope is that trees like this are more resilient and could be better suited to our changing climate.
Many animals depend on our trees, of course, including birds, which have seen a devastating decline of their own in recent years.
According to the RSPB, since 1980, there's been a loss of 1 in 6 breeding birds in the UK. That amounts to 600 million birds.
One of the worst affected species are skylarks. Here in Richmond Park, they've been working to protect these precious birds. And we're joined by Charlotte from the Royal Parks team. So can you just tell us what causes birds like skylarks to struggle?
It's mainly people and disturbance. They're really vulnerable to being disturbed because they build their nests on the ground, which means if someone walks too close or a dog goes past, they're much more likely to abandon the nest, which means that there's not as many birds the next year. The main thing we're doing is telling people about the fact we've got skylarks and what they can do to help them. So if they stay on the paths and they keep the dogs on really short leads, that really reduces the chances of the birds being disturbed.
Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us.
But it's not just birds on land that are struggling. The numbers of some seabirds have fallen by almost a quarter in the last 40 years. The latest State of Nature report warns that climate change and overfishing can have a damaging impact on the wildlife in our seas. In Cardigan Bay, a group of young people are doing a vital job helping to protect their coastline and the amazing population of sea mammals that live there.
Dolphin, over there, right on the corner for the fish factory.
The Living Seas Youth Forum help monitor Europe's largest population of dolphins. 250 to 300 bottlenose dolphins live here, and the team work with the Wildlife Trust of South and West Wales to make sure the population isn't decreasing. So do the dolphins and other wildlife here face any challenges?
Pollutants, plastics, pesticides. We get nets washing up on the beaches. Dolphins can get trapped in the nets. They can swallow the plastics, can get their beaks stuck in it.
So why is it important to monitor the number of species and different animals you see here?
It's important to see the changes that happen over the course of a few months. So we do it all year round. Rain, snow, whatever, we're always there. You want to help the populations to be as strong as they can be, and we don't want anything bad to happen. So it's just monitoring them, checking that they're safe all the time.
As well as monitoring the dolphins, the team carry out beach cleans to remove litter and also do shoreline surveys to log the marine wildlife living in rock pools, on the beaches and even on rocks.
So these ones right here, these littler ones, these ones are barnacles. And then these bigger ones here, these ones are limpets.
Limpets, and they're like latch ones that you can't get them off. Looking at what we can find on the beach isn't just for fun. The group are also gathering really important data that is shared nationally and helps to build a better picture of the health of this marine environment.
This one here, maybe?
That one. I think it looks the most like the dulse. It still has the bits coming off it, but not as many as the others. Yeah.
I know lots of young people have like climate anxiety, so I think it's really good that we come together and we feel that we can definitely make a difference.
What would you say to other young people who might be watching this?
Just go out and do the smallest thing, like a beach clean can really make a difference.
It's great to see the conservation work young people are doing at a local level. But what are the government's plans at a national level to address the biodiversity crisis in the UK? Well, we asked them and they gave us this statement.
The government has strict targets to meet to restore nature, and is taking action to do this by creating habitats which provide homes for our wildlife, helping to increase their numbers. We have also said that we will take serious action against those who pollute our rivers and lakes.
Britain is a nation of animal lovers, but if we're not careful, we could soon be left with just our pets.
Our wildlife has suffered a devastating decline over the last 50 years, and now we all need to do our bit to stop it disappearing forever. In this film, we've looked at how you can make a difference and discovered what we, as young people, are already doing to save nature for future generations, like using our voices.
I think climate change is a really big problem. Everyone should really know about it and take part in helping.
Well, if we don't help, there will be no future for the rest of us.
Taking action.
You can create a pollinator-friendly area with flowers.
And learning and passing on information.
Just our day-to-day choices that we think are just normal, you know, they're really hurting our environment, and it's important that we're aware of that.
This is the world we're going to be spending the rest of our lives in, and, you know, we have so many plans for when we grow up, and we need a healthy world to do all that.
I'd like to send a message to all of the young people watching this, and that is, please use your voice. Please believe in yourself. You are important. Every single last one of you is important. Don't ever think I'm just a drop in the ocean, because what is an ocean but a multitude of drops? Every drop counts. You count. Use your voice for change. Demand that change. Put your case across. And I think if you put a good case across, then people will start to act upon it.